Okay. All right. Well, good evening, everyone, and greetings from Southern California. Last time I was in Oregon. Today I'm in Southern California in Palm Desert near the Mexican border. Tonight we're going to go over the second part of the Essays and Proofs of Guatemala. This will cover the years 1897 to 1917. And I'm presenting this also on behalf of the International Society of Guatemala Collectors. So we now enter the year 1897. And in 1897, Guatemala celebrated the Central American Exposition. And what's unusual about this set is the very high face value. It goes up to 500 centavos, which really had no postal use. Very few people have ever seen used copies of these stamps in the high values. Pretty much all of the used examples are canceled to order. And in some cases, the high values, the scarce ones, were used for telegraph stamps. And very often the cancellations were removed to present faked used copies of these stamps. The stamps were all printed in black on different toned papers. There were die proofs in black of these stamps. Here are examples of the 2 centavo, 3, 6, 150, and 200 centavos, all from the American Banknote Company. These are quite scarce. Some of them, the 200 value has a plate number C858, if you can see that very small print. But these were all signed off. They were approved in 1896 on September 30th, September 14th, and so forth of 1896. There are plate proofs in existence. Here they are. In pairs. And there's a souvenir booklet issued. A souvenir booklet, 5,000 copies were printed by a company in New York called the Albert Type Company. The booklet contained 40 pages and is bound in blue cloth covers. I don't have a full booklet. I've never seen a full booklet, but it seems that collectors saved the last few pages. And the last few pages had reproductions of the entire series. They were printed in the same black, on the same tinted colors as the stamps themselves, but the stamps are printed in this case by lithography. And they're printed on a coated light Bristol card stock. There were probably less than 20 full sheets intact. I had another set of these that was in poor condition. These are in pretty good condition. One reason there are so few of these is that collectors cut them apart to make what look like proofs, plate proofs, but they're not. They're just the booklet cut. So there are very few of these full sheets. So I have some examples of the cut apart sheets as well. If anyone has seen the full booklet, I'd like to know. Then in 1898, I think all of you know a lot about the Seabeck printing company. The Seabeck Company worked out deals with many Central and South American countries where they printed the stamps basically for free in return for getting permission to keep printing them and selling them to collectors. Well, in 1898, they produced a series of essays for El Salvador. And here are copies of the essays issued for El Salvador. And they were dated 1899. Well, the Seabeck Company tried to work out a deal with Guatemala, similar to what they did with El Salvador and other countries. On top, you see essays that were really based on the El Salvador issues. you see a standing vignette of series, and you also see the same vignette that was used in El Salvador. And these plate proofs were made in black and also in a yellow-brown color. They took this design from El Salvador, and they produced a number of plate proofs for Guatemala in all these different colors. This stamp, the company, Seabeck, never reached agreement with Guatemala, thank goodness. So these stamps never issued in Guatemala. In 1900, the American Banknote Company decided to change the colors of the existing stamps, the large Quetzal series. So if you look at the 1 cent green, originally that was a 1 cent blue. The 2 cent red was originally a 2 cent brown, and the 5 cent was a 5 cent violet. It was believed that these colors were changed to meet the standards of the Universal Postal Union. For example, in the United States, the 1 cent was a green, that was the postcard rate. The 2 cent was red, and that was the letter rate. So it was believed that that was done for that reason. And some of these are available also in plate proof pairs. I'm staying a little bit longer this time on each of the slides, so you have a chance to really look closely at them. In 1902, something very strange happened. The government of Guatemala ran out of the 20 and 25 cent value, and someone decided to print these in 2 new colors. Now, these were issued in 1902, the same year that the Waterloo series, the very famous Waterloo series, was issued. So these were only used for part of 2002. They ordered 10,000 of each of these stamps, but in the order requesting that the American Banknote Company issue these stamps, there's no mention of changing the colors. So this is still something of a mystery. And of course, in 1902, Waterloo came out with the very famous Waterloo series of engraved stamps. These are beautiful, gorgeous stamps. And they all say UPU, and they all say the year 1902. And here we see the values. These were printed and reprinted many, many times. They're available in different colors. They're available in different papers sometimes, different perforations, many perforation varieties. They used many perforating machines over the various printings. Also, there were different dies that were used for the frame, several different dies for each value, different dies for the vignettes, different guide dots available. You can study this set from Guatemala for years, literally, and never get through it. But the important thing for tonight is there are no known die proofs or plate proofs, and very few errors indeed. But one thing that did occur, which is very interesting, and occurs for quite a number of years, the American Banknote Company, I'm sorry, Waterloo, not American Banknote, Waterloo, they sent their salesmen out with sample books, trying to sell the high quality printing that Waterloo offered. And the sample books include many, many different examples in different colors. So these color trial plate proofs, I think you can debate whether these are plate proofs at all, since they were really intended not to test the printing process, but to provide samples for salesmen. So these color trial proofs, which I'm calling for now, are available in many, many different types. This type is without any Waterloo overprint at all. Some of these had a punch in them. You can see the punch in the 75 centavo. but no punch in the 50. Some of them came imperforate, some of them came perforated. But after these initial samples, they started issuing them with the words Waterloo and Sons Ltd and the word specimen. In this type 1 overprint, the Waterloo and Sons is typographed. They're all in caps. The letters have no serif, or as we say, they're sans serif. The angle of the overprint is 18 degrees, and these were all perforated except for a few of them. And one thing I'd like to note here, the abbreviation LTD for limited has a period or a stop after the D of LTD, and they all have punches as well. And these are not in the color of the issued stamps. That's our type 1. Now, interestingly, these samples were stored by Waterloo in envelopes, about number 10 sized envelopes. And each envelope had a letter on it on the envelope itself. So they would take this envelope, they would attach one copy of that sample to the envelope, and they'd handwrite in an ST number. So if you look at these samples, first of all, none of these have a period after LTD. They're in all various colors, and some of them were cut from the envelope. That's why they have ST numbers like 675, 676, 677, and 678. And all of these, I note, are imperf of this type 1A. That is all caps, no serif, light print, and so forth. Then just the one centavo had a type 2 overprint, very similar to the type 1 and type 1A, except the typeface is bolder and the angle went from 18 degrees to 48 degrees. Next, we have the type 3 overprint. These were engraved, Waterloo and Sons overprint with serifs. So we have all capital letters with serifs. The overprints are 24.5 millimeters long. The initial letters are taller capitals. It's all capital letters, but the initial letter of watermark, Sons, and Limited, and Specimen are a larger typeface. They come in red and blue overprints. Again, we have examples, imperforate examples, with the ST number from the envelopes that they were stored in. Then we get to type 4, and here we have all capitals, but the initial capitals are the same size as all the other capitals, sans serif. The LTD, let's go back a moment. The LTD, like the other ones, have dots under the T and D, but the angle is really steep now. Now it's an angle of 45 degrees. Well, these were actually issued in sheets of 9 from new plates. You know, the original plates were 10 by 10 in each pane and 400 in the major sheets themselves. They were originally a little bit on the larger side, 125 by 130 millimeters, but most collectors seem to trim them down to a little bit of a smaller size. So these are very unusual sheets of 9, and they have the punches, and they come in all the various types that we've discussed earlier. Here are some more example of those miniature sheets, and you can see the various types. The lower left looks like it's a full-size sheet. It hasn't been trimmed down. There is a publication that lists all of these. Actually, it lists all of the Salesman's Proof from Waterloo and Sons for all Central and South American countries. Here are more of those miniature sheets. And here's one that's a miniature sheet that is imperf between, it's horizontally imperf between. So they somehow missed running those two rows of perforations in this. We believe this is unique. This only happened in one sheet, and this is the only example we know of. Now we come to the wonderful independence issue, the Declaration of Independence of 1907. And we show, of course, the issued stamp in the upper right-hand corner. The die proofs are very rare. These are the only two I've ever seen, and frankly, they're in pretty terrible condition. You can see holes in them, little bits of paper missing. But these were signed off, the vignette and the frame, and they have the die numbers 3832, it looks like, for the vignette, and 3831 for the frame. And they wrote over it the word canceled, and I'm not quite sure what went on with these. Like the earlier Waterloo stamps, they had Salesman's Proof. Here's another one of those, similar to the ones from the 1902 series, 02 series. The colors are not the originals. You can see the original colors are blue and black. This is brown and blue with a blue vignette. In 1912, the American Banknote Company produced some essays of an intended 6-cent issue of the Temple of Minerva. These are sepia prints, and plate numbers are handwritten as 4434 and dated August 30th of 2012. Again, this is the only copy I've seen of these essays. It's similar to Waterloo issue. It's also inscribed like the Waterloos, UPU 1902. And we see two alternative views of the Temple of Minerva. In 1909, the Garcia Granados Commemorative was intended. This is a very large format pen and pencil essay. The vignette of Granados is actually pasted into place, and the essay is inscribed, as you can see. It shows a standing Granados with a scroll inscribed Acta de Patricia. This is very, very large. This is 300 millimeters tall by 224 millimeters in height. It's just a beautiful piece of artwork. From this piece of artwork, they made a photographic die proof. If you go back, you can see it's really the same thing in smaller version. And of course, the vignette's not pasted in. On the back is a Perkins and Bacon hand stamp in blue. And the die proof is on glossy photographic paper glued to the cardstock. It seems like the intention from the inscription on the back was that this be a stamp 23 by 33 millimeters. And here, of course, we come to the issued stamps themselves. And they made a die proof of the vignette only with the center in indigo. And we see the complete design in brown and blue as the issued stamp, but we also see some vertical blue bars. It almost seems like these are printed on some existing paper, and the color is not quite the issued stamp. Notice the brown is a lot darker and it's imperforate. Here's an example of some plate proofs on the right, and the vignette is just greatly, greatly shifted to the upper right. And here we see a plate proof below with the complete design in yellow, brown, and carmine. In 1911, there were two stamps issued for the, one was a 25-cent post office issue, and the other is the 5 peso Manuel Estrada Cabrera issue. The post office issue, of course, is well known as a very rare invert. The 5 peso is very well known as a very common invert. And I do have a copy of the invert used on cover, properly used, which is listed in some of the textbooks. So for this issue, there was a decree dated December 19th of 1910, signed by President Estrada. And it only says that the 25 centavo and the 50 peso were needed for, quote, greater facility in the franking of correspondence. It gave the Ministry of Public Works the right to choose the design and spend about $500 US for 100,000 of each copy. When Estrada was deposed, the 5 peso was declared invalid for postage. The post office building that's shown was destroyed in the 1917-18 earthquakes. The inverts of the 5, by the way, are kind of interesting because a lot of them have notches cut into them. And that seemed to be to deface the portrait. Here is a die proof of the post office issue with the inscription C998. And we do have a die proof of the vignette only of the 5 peso issue. Notice the strike through, the C360 is struck through, but we don't see any renumbering of it. We would have expected perhaps a later renumbering. And here is a die proof of the 5 peso with a C994 numbering and some plate proofs issued on card and pasted to a card. In 1917, there was an Estrada Cabrera commemorative that you can see as issued. And again, here's one of those salesman's proof, kind of a really nice sample of a truly lovely stamp. And this is printed in gray and black. Well, gray and not black. This is really looks more like black and violet. The overprint is at an 11-degree angle and it's imperforate. This is kind of an interesting stamp. The only stamp in the world that we know of where the stamp itself is copyrighted. So in November 12, 1917, the order was sent after a new foreign rate had been covered by a year and a half by combinations of existing stamps. But what's remarkable about this stamp is that the imprint is blown up, and you can see it says copyright, that's a symbol for copyright, ABNCO, American Banknote Company. So very, very strange. It's really a paradox because the rights to each stamp belong to the country and not to the printer, yet the printer copyrighted the stamp. Very strange. There are some interesting essays of this stamp. Here is a photogravure essay of the stamp. And the stamp at the left, Cabrera, is spelled correctly, C-A-B-R-E-R-A. But the stamp at the right has Cabrera spelled as Cabrero. And it's dated, the one at the left, July 2nd, 1917. At the right, it's dated December 14th, 1917. So notice that the essay at the left doesn't have UPU. The essay at the right, they've added UPU in the shield. But there's more to show you about this stamp. Here is a die proof of the vignette. Notice that there's no name in the name tablet. This is a very early essay. Also, if you look at the sash that's below his tie, below his necktie, you see a sash that's made up of mostly horizontal lines. We move now to a fuller die proof, complete design, but Cabrera is spelled wrong. And the sash still has horizontal curved lines. We move forward, and here is a blue colored die proof in an early state. Again, Cabrera is spelled wrong, and the sash has horizontal curved lines. Next, we move to a later design. If we look back a moment, notice there's no plate number for this die proof, but here we start to see a plate number crossed out with a later renumbering. And here they've corrected Cabrera, and notice that the sash is now made of diagonal lines, no longer horizontal, but diagonal lines. Here we see again in blue, the issued color. The name is spelled correctly, and the sash is made of diagonal straight lines. And that is the end of part 2. So I'll turn it back to our host, and I will continue the screen sharing in case anyone wants to look at a particular slide.
Fantastic. Thank you, Michael. Very interesting presentation again.
Thank you, Henry.
Sí, si hay algunas preguntas por ahí, para que levanten ponen su mano en la parte de participantes. And while we wait, I have a question. And this is on the 1897 Souvenir booklet. Yes. You mentioned about the cutouts to be sometimes available and pass as essays. Is the paper significantly different? Can you really tell they are no essays for sure?
Yes, yes. No, what I said was that they're mistaken for proofs, not essays, but proofs.
Oh, okay, sorry.
And yes, I showed you a slide with pairs of plate proofs, and they're on pretty normal paper. This is a light cardstock on the cutouts. So yes, it's distinctly different. And you can see, if you look at the details, the lithography is different.
Okay. Okay, so, but for, let's say, the new eye, this can be mistaken, but someone who has seen a little Guatemala, you spotted right on the second.
Yeah, yes, that's true. And it's a shame. It's a shame because they destroyed some very rare booklets in the process. Yeah. They printed, I think it was something like 5,000 booklets, and there's almost none left.
Yeah, you were mentioning only the last page survived, so that's quite a surprise there.
If anyone sees a full booklet, I'd like to buy one.
Are there at least references that they exist, or someone has?
Yes, well, the Guatemala Handbook G1 talks about it, so we know it exists. It existed.
Yeah, it has to be somewhere. Oh, there is a hand there, Rafael.
Yes, hi, Michael. I have a question.
Hi, Rafael.
The last die proof that you show, is that on cardboard or is it Indian paper and then they glue and on top of a cardboard?
Indian paper glued.
Oh, why do they do that? I've seen that before.
There's a reason for it. It turns out that India paper takes the fine detail of the print better than the cardboard does. So in general, that's why India paper is used for these. We really want to check the finest detail, but it's delicate.
Yeah, so they glue it before they do the printing, or they just do the press on Indian paper without the cardboard, or they do both at the same time?
No, my understanding is they do it straight to the India paper and then glue it to the cardboard.
Got it. Thank you. Good presentation. Anyway.
Thank you. It's a good question.
And Michael, just to expand on that a little bit. So if the proof is printed in India paper and is going to reveal way more details, when they have the final product in a different type of paper will look a little bit different. So probably that small distinction,
I think,
I don't know.
I think you have to look under some magnification to really see the difference in the fine detail.
Okay.
I usually can't see it with the naked eye.
Okay.
But that's that on India paper, that's as fine an impression as you're ever going to see.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other question out there?
Now we're again, I would invite you. I think I mentioned last time we're doing a project of recreating the Guatemala handbooks.
Yes.
Guatemala 1 and 2, and I've actually just finished capturing Guatemala 2, and I'm working on the proofreading. I have some proofreaders working on that, and I'm going to be sending out chapters for proofreading, not for proofreading, but for crowdsourcing. So if you collect Guatemala and you're interested in participating, I would be willing to send you an email with a scan of the latest version of an enhanced chapter and ask you to look through your collection to see if you have any proofs or essays, any interesting postal history, all that sort of thing, any information that we might not know. And anyone who contributes will get their name in the final book. So we have 165 members in the Guatemala Society. So Henry, if anyone's interested in participating, I'll check back with you at some point when we're ready to do the crowdsourcing.
Perfect. And as you know, we also, on the description of the videos, we add the PDF. But we also may include an email or something, calling out for collectors and the viewers if they come across some of the material you're looking for. Probably more than happy, as most of our viewers are coming from YouTube. There are like 1,300 subscribers already, while over here we attend typically between 60 to 60 people. So any additional reference, I'll make sure I add it at the bottom in the description of the video.
Wonderful. It's a little premature, but later, that'd be great.
Yep, no, fantastic. We'll definitely help out.
Right.
And that is a very interesting project, and big kudos for that. It takes, as you're saying, crowdsourcing, and it takes like an army just to get all those documentations updated. So
right, I'd be happy. I've done a PowerPoint. It's available. If this group would like to hear how you can each bring your handbooks into the next century, I'd be willing to do a presentation here on that.
That's fantastic. We count you on that. That's a great idea. Many countries don't have a handbook, and probably this is an opportunity to have one. So
yes,
we'll probably take it from the
I know for me, when I was choosing a country in Central and South America to collect, those handbooks convinced me to collect Guatemala. So if you each have a favorite country, if there aren't handbooks, it's a great way to increase interest.
Oh, absolutely. I 1000% agree with that. When documentation is available, it makes that collecting area more appealing, for sure.
Right.
There is another hand out there. Mauricio.
Hi, Michael. Thank you very much for this very interesting presentation.
Hi,
regarding those proofs of Waterloo and Sons that were made in little blocks of 9, was this a common practice for Waterloo or just for Waterloo for their like proofs with all of their customers or just with Guatemala?
I don't know much about the other countries, but wait, no, that's not true. I take that back, because I have a publication that lists all the blocks, and they are from multiple countries. I don't have that with me. I'm not home now. I'm 1,000 miles south. But yes, for sure, it was common practice in other countries.
Okay, thank you very much.
In those Waterloo issues, are there any inverted center?
No, not in Guatemala. not even one. Their quality control is really pretty good.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's great. The biggest problem, well, okay, a lot of problems. One is that they use so many different perforating machines, and like two machines can have basically the same perforation, but one has rough holes, one has smoothly cut holes. And to make things even worse, if you take a line of perforations, let's say you have 3 stamps in a row, and you take the perforations along the line, it will vary across the line of 3 stamps.
Wow. You can
And
pretty
also,
much fingerprint the machine from there. I presume.
yeah, and also you have problems in terms of perforation gauges, some more or less accurate than others, and many of these measurements were done in tenths of a perforation.
Yeah.
So it's a hard problem. What I'm hoping to do is to electronically set up a scanning system that's calibrated accurately so that you can actually measure how many perforations there are in 2 centimeters. And also there is a program called Easy Perf, and you line up the teeth of the perforations in the program, and it gives you a very accurate readout.
Yeah, especially with those small variations, I guess it's a lifesaver for folks.
Of course, the problem is Easy Perf, it needs a scan. Well, scanners aren't linear either.
Yep.
So you need to almost calibrate for the different locations on the flat scanning table in order to compensate for it. It's a hard problem.
Have you tried those handheld odometers? I don't know if they work. I know they exist, but I don't know how accurate they are.
I have from Germany a device that's supposed to measure perforations directly, and I've never been really happy with it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what I would thought. It's hard to, because you're right, to get to the correct calibration and making sure that the scan version correlates precisely with what the reference is in the software is very difficult.
Yes.
Anyways,
of course, the other problem is,
sure.
In Guatemala you have so many overprints and so many forgeries. And I will say one thing: we have a member, the past editor of El Quetzal, who's published a number of articles on fakes and forgeries of Guatemala on the Guatemala Society website. He just added a few this week. So I'm hoping when we do the new handbooks, we can incorporate a lot of his learning on there. His name is Dave Reitzema.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I guess I met him in Denver.
Yes, that's where he lives.
That's where he lives, yes. Perfect. I don't see any other hand on the participants window. I don't know if there is any other question or comment out there. ¿Alguna pregunta o comentario, cualquier otra cosa? En inglés o en español.
I just want to add one thing, and that is that I am so pleased being here because it's such an amazing opportunity to speak to people from so many countries with so much experience. It's fabulous what you're doing.
Thank you, and thank you for helping us to get to our new goal, which will be 500 of these presentations. So I'm quite surprised. We already above 400. This is the 401. It feels like if COVID had ever been helpful for anything, which we know is not the case, is definitely helped Philatelic for sure.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. With that, Michael, thanks again. It was an important presentation to continue part 2, and we know we have 3 more parts to go in 2022. I don't remember the dates right now, but they will be announced as they show up.